I think it's going to be worth it. I don't want to set the bar up too high for Stu, but, you know, they all came to see you, dude. So, you know, you got a lot of you got a big expectations here. So, and if you'd like, you can go ahead and turn yours on. But before we get in, you know, with getting started with Stu here, you know, it's always important to bring really quality people here to speak. I mean, that's our mission, right? Our mission is always to collaborate. We always use the word collaboration because it's so important in this community, not only for other people around the room, but for us, right? The collaboration part of this business is so important because not only do we help other people grow, but we grow with it. You know, we've been collaborating since I saw Mo earlier, and we've been doing this 6 years ago. We started with Leverage, and, you know, it led on to a lot of collaboration with everybody in here as well. So this has been a phenomenal thing to bring people like Stu. Now, I got introduced to Stu by Edmund Marquez. He says, hey, man, you got to meet this guy. He's a phenomenal, just super smart man. He's from Philly. And, you know, he has this big brokerage over there. And I got a chance to talk to Stu. We sat down for lunch. And to be honest with you, I know Stu, it's like almost just a little bit more than just surface, right? But, you know, just through the conversation we had, I knew that it was going to be really special. And this guy brought so many like nuggets just having lunch together. And I was just sitting there like, you know, just in awe because it makes me think about business in different perspectives, right? We're talking about influence today, and how important is it influence? How far did we go away from influence in the last 5 to 6 years, even 10 years? You know, real estate was a different place back then. Today, it's a different animal, right? It's a different presentation. It's just, we got to bring back a different type of business back to this business. And it's about relationships. It's about influence. It's about doing the right thing. It's about service. It's about a lot of these big things that I know Stu will talk about today. But it's so important that we go back to those things. And talking to Stu was a reminder of how far I am from that. Just how far we went away from it. And it's important now to just provide the utmost service to our clients. So I was really excited about that. One other thing about Stu I can say is that, you know, Stu, okay, I'll ask everybody here. Who here has ran a marathon? There's one back there. Half marathon, okay. Half marathon, that's tough, right? You train for that, okay. Who here has swam 2.5 miles straight? Okay, John, one. And who here has rode a bike over 100 miles at one time? Javi, I know, is a big biker. Now imagine putting those all together in one race, right? An Ironman. You guys know what an Ironman is? One of the most incredible, and I don't even know what the stats are and what percentage of people do an Ironman. But I imagine it's fractional. Stu's done 4 of them, okay? And as you know, for those of you who rode over 100 miles, those of you who've done half marathons, or long swims, it's such a mental game. And it takes tremendous amount of just being able to break through that. So much energy for that. And for somebody to do an Ironman can tell you a lot about that person, not even knowing anything about his business. So knowing somebody that can do that tells me already, without even knowing his accolades, how good of a businessman he is, because it takes that sort of, that certain type of mindset and that willpower to be able to do something so incredible, not only once, but let alone 4 times, right? So I would love for you to speak a little bit about yourself. You have a tremendous amount of accolades. You've done a tremendous amount of things. He has a real estate company called the Springer Group, right?
Springer Realty Group. Yeah.
Springer Realty Group. They're just under 300 agents from Philadelphia. So there's something to learn here as this man is still creating, you know, still running a business all the way across the country and still being successful at it. So everybody welcome. Please help me welcome Stu Schulman.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, Gabe, very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I thank you all for your time today. My name is Stu Schulman. And it's crazy to hear like the whole Ironman stuff. That's a whole other topic that maybe sometime we'll talk about, mental toughness and all that stuff. That was a very big piece of my life, and it still is to this day. But today I'm super excited to talk about, well, frankly, it's a superpower of mine. So we all have our own superpowers. Has anyone ever taken time to think about what is my actual superpower. I know it's a very trendy thing to say. Everyone says, "Ooh, superpowers." But does everyone in their mind have their thing? Like, what are you just so good at? Michael Jordan was really good at whatever, shooting the ball or competitive spirit. Or do you have your thing? For me, it's, the word up here is influence. You might not like the word influence. Influence can be received as, oh, like, what are you, am I a puppet to you? Are you influencing me? And I don't mean that at all. For me, my superpower is connection. It's something I'm born with. Ever since I'm a little kid, imagine like a volume, a radio dial or something like that. The volume on connecting with people was always turned up really high. You might know that as EQ, emotional quotient. For whatever reason, when someone is not treated well, it's like a loudspeaker to me. If someone is treated super well, it's equally loud to me in a really good way. And so I can't turn that on or off. That's my superpower. It's something that has enabled me to lead teams of people. I'll go into some of my history as I tell a little bit of my story. But to me, it's really about, instead of the word influence, if you like a different word, maybe it's the word connection. Here's an example. Actually, just earlier today, I posted something on Facebook. On Sunday, I have the Today Show, like Willie Geist's Sunday Today Show. Usually I'm on a long bike ride, but I haven't been feeling very good in recent weeks. And so anyway, it's a Sunday morning where I rarely get to have kind of the white noise of the Today Show on. And Willie Geist is talking about Larry Gator Rivers. And I stopped the TV and I said to my wife, oh my God, it's Gator. I know the guy. He's highlighting Gator Rivers as a life well lived. It's a weekly segment where he highlights someone that lived this incredible life and gave back to his community. And I know Gator Rivers. And so it was a reminder. Gator Rivers was a Harlem Globetrotter who broke the color barrier in Savannah, Georgia. He was part of the first kind of non-white basketball team to win the state title in the 60s. And he was an absolute like game changer in the Savannah community. And I met this guy once on an airplane. And it was an ability that he and I both had, and we took the time to connect. And it's like connection keeps showing up. So on Sunday, my buddy Gator Rivers, who just called me 2 months ago to check in on me, who has since passed, was being highlighted on the Today Show. And I thought, isn't it interesting how just connections keep popping up in my life? Today I posted about it on Facebook because it's these connections. It's taking the time to actually connect with other human beings and the impact it can have on your life and on other people's lives, which frankly is even more important to me, is huge. I first started discovering this when I was I'm from Philadelphia, so I was born and raised in Philadelphia, just like the Fresh Prince. West Philadelphia, born and raised. On the playground is where I spent most of my days as well. I can do the whole song for you if you really want. But that's actually where I was raised with my childhood best friend, Dave Springer. It is his brokerage that I run with him. I do it from Tucson. He does it from Philadelphia. Anyway, so growing up in Philadelphia, I was a graduate of a local college there called Westchester University. And I was an elementary school teacher. And I got all these accolades for being this great teacher. And if you're in the teaching, is there any educators here, any former teachers here? We got one, at least two. A lot of what you would call a KPI that measures how do you know if you've actually taught your kids is they actually measure it in grades, like test scores. So whenever you hear about, oh, how are the kids performing against these tests, the reason why is it's the only objective number. I don't love it. It doesn't feel good when you teach to a test, but that's why so many teachers do that. It's because it's the only way to measure, did the student comprehend and learn what you're trying to teach them? And I had a really good ability to connect with our kids so that they absorbed their tests and performed well on these tests. And I thought it was interesting. And people would say, Stu, how are you such a good teacher? And what was natural to me was what I didn't know was, we would call it 30 years later as a superpower, is I had an ability to connect. When you connect with people, they will receive you. I didn't know it at the time, but it was the ability to connect. So I did what every elementary school teacher would do. I stopped teaching and I put a business plan together to buy a bar. No, that's literally what I did. I graduated school and I knew I loved to teach and it was a thing for me, but I wanted to make money, and in the Philadelphia school district, they just don't pay a lot of money, and I was definitely, those gears were turning. And so what I did was I bought a bar. I used to tell people, working with kids all day drove me to sell alcohol. And so that's what I did. But here's what's interesting. Second time in my life this pops up. I have this bar, and I'm not kidding you, I'm not exaggerating, 50 bars were in a 1 mile radius of my bar. It was a drinker's bar. It was a place where you went in, you did not dress up, you were coming to drink, to hang out with your friends. Everyone was a construction worker. Like, you have that visual in your mind. It was a blue-collar bar with pumping music, with a jukebox, and we had darts, and we had pool tables, and we had cold beer, and so did every other bar in my area. I was one of 50. I didn't have great location. I was an okay location, but people did not come to my bar for the location. They did not come for the cold beer because they could have gotten cold beer anywhere. It was up to me to draw people in to one of 50 spots. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but guess what was the common thread? Connection. I had an ability to connect with people. Again, I didn't know this. No one taught me this, but I'm like, again, it's like a radio dial in my life. Wow. When you make people feel welcome, when you make them feel valued, when no one person in any room is less than another, it's really amazing how people feel like they want to be a part of your world. Huh. So I paid back my loan. I sold my business. Now I'm at the ripe old age of 28 years old. And what do? Well, I went back to teaching to pay the bills, but I did what every bar owner does at that point. I went into pharmaceutical sales. So teaching drove me to sell alcohol, which drove me to sell drugs. I'm now in the pharmaceutical business, my third industry. So now check this out. Something keeps popping up. In those days, this is the early 2000s, they made movies about this. Pharmaceutical companies were hiring salespeople. We were one of 30 or 40 salespeople in any given doctor's office. We were the people in the suits. You walk through with your bag. Now, in those days, before I was an Ironman triathlete, I was closer to 280 pounds. I gave you every excuse in the book why I couldn't exercise. I have the herniated discs. I have the bad knees. I have the anxiety and the depression. I had all the excuses like down. And I was the big oafy guy walking through doctor's offices, selling whatever I had to sell in my bag, competing against beautiful people. Historically, pharmaceutical salespeople look beautiful. They look handsome. They're just these wonderful, they have a charisma to them. And I'm going to go in there, the big oafy Stu with a bag of drugs, and I'm going to somehow connect with doctors, and I'm one of 30 people in that office every day bombarding them. And what was interesting was, as I went to my first President's Club, my second President's Club, my third President's Club, some common things were coming up. We all had a business plan. We all had, not doctors, but bosses that told us, you need to be in front of your doctors every single day, every single week. You're going to see your target list, so we call it spheres in real estate. In the pharmaceutical world, we call them our target lists. You got to be in front of them every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, and so on. And there were lots of people following the plan ranked last in the nation. And then there were people, thankfully I was one of them, but there were plenty of people that were able to set themselves apart from the rest. Why? There was a connection being made. It was not about my looks. It was not about even my drug, to be quite frank with you, because what you learn about pharmaceuticals is many drugs are kind of very similar. But what's interesting, the differentiator are you, the actual person. And how are you able to connect with a doctor and their staff and every single person that some people walk right by, but it's that person who you just walked right by that had all the influence in that office. People never forget the way you make them feel. And that went to every single person in my office. All right, that's career number 3. I moved across the country. I moved to Phoenix, Arizona in 2010, where I started leading regions of the United States. And now my teams, we focus on how do we connect with other human beings? How do we influence them in a way where they see us as an uncommon leader? Now I'm going to start dropping terms on you. Uncommon leadership. Not common leadership, but uncommon leadership. Every single team goes to their President's Club, President's Club, President's Club. They moved me to Minnesota in 2014, which is where our home office was. That's what brought me to Minnesota. And then my wife and I decided to move to Tucson in September. Here I am in Tucson, Arizona. Why? Because we had an investment property here. We love, love, love the desert. But back in Minnesota just for a second, my 5th industry popped up. So I went from a world where we sold essentially drugs to people, medicine that helps people, and I was part of a leadership team that was brought in to how do we help people live happier, healthier lives. Now I'm in Mr. Ironman phase and my life has completely changed. How do we help people live happier and healthier without having to use medicine for everything all the time? Are there lifestyle components? And so that's what I did for the latter part of my career until real estate. But what was interesting was I led a whole division of our company where I was in charge of people that had to make cold calls. Has anyone else made a cold call before? Sucks, doesn't it? Totally is hard. I'm not wired for cold calls. I'm just not. And we had to lead these people through dialing these people who don't want to hear from their health insurance company and get told, if you just make some lifestyle changes, we're going to change your life. Right, really? That's what we had to do. We had to call tens and tens of thousands of people. We had to cold call them and convince them that if they worked with my company, we were going to help change their life. Try doing that. So I applied now I'm starting to nerd out on how do we connect with people, enter the fundamentals of influence, and that's really what I'm here today to do. What we found, so now forget about the accolades and the awards. I'm going to give you some real statistics here. We took a division that before I took over this department, they would call another human being on the phone, cold call them and say, hey, you need my help to be happier and healthier. And we would get a 40% success rate. Success defined as, you have my interest and I might work with you in the future. Okay, that's 40% success rate. After we develop what we call the fundamentals of influence, we turn that into 80%. Okay, we literally doubled the results. All over the phone, and all we did was flip the script on how do we connect with other human beings. Okay? That's the 4th industry. 5th industry. I moved to Tucson, Arizona, now it comes full circle. I moved to Tucson, Arizona because my childhood best friend built a real estate brokerage back in 2009. He formed the brokerage, and we have lots of bells and whistles. But the point is he said, Stu, we have a lot of agents that need help, and I believe that we can bring other agents to this, and I need your help. He's an introvert. I'm the extrovert in the friendship. We've known each other for well over 40 years, and so he runs the business day-to-day in real estate. I am not a realtor, but I do have a lot of business experiences. So whether it's leading the agents that we have, I spend a lot of time doing that. Whether it's recruiting a lot of new agents potentially, I do a ton of that. And I also think about how do we grow our business? How do we create passive income streams and do all kinds of fun things that help people? And the most common thing that keeps coming up again, now I'm doing this from Tucson, is I have to somehow form a relationship with a complete stranger in Philadelphia or in that market and get them to join my company. I never met them in person. Rarely do I meet them in person. But how do we influence them so that they see positive possibilities in Stu and or our company? That's what I'm here to talk about today. I am not here to tell you how to build a business plan. A business plan to me is downstream of where I like to spend my time. Downstream meaning until I work on this stuff here, it's hard for me to execute on a business plan. Has anyone ever executed a business plan? Maybe it's a diet. It could be a workout regimen. Like, to me, that's equivalent to a business plan. I have a plan, but it didn't really work. Has anyone ever had that happen in their lives? Okay. Sometimes it's not just the plan we put in place. I've seen some great business plans, but it's the execution of it. And it's not the execution of it like, did I actually do the things I said I would do? That's like, you have to do that stuff. But it's the art of it. Doctors, I spent a ton of time in the doctor space. Doctors would call themselves artists, right? They go to medical school, and then at some point, there's an art to what they do. What's the chemistry set in your body, and your chemistry set's different than your chemistry set, and yours, and so on down the line. And so doctors are really artists. I have a great lawyer friend in town here who would tell you the same thing. I went to law school to learn the nuts and bolts of being a lawyer, but in the end, people come to me because I'm an artist in law. I can make things happen and navigate things that the average lawyer can't do, right? If you've ever followed a recipe, right, for the chef, a chef follows a recipe, but they are artists, right? I can make a Duncan Hines cake. I can follow the book. Like, I can follow the recipe on the box, but somehow the chef, that's the artist, is going to make that thing taste even better because they're artists. I believe that salespeople, which is what we are artists. We know all the things we should do. Like the lawyer knows, you do this, you go from this step to this step before we litigate, before we go to court, and we do all these things. Well, so do salespeople. We know exactly what we should do. Make your contact, follow up, see them 14 times. It's going to take 14 times for them to remember you. And then after that, like, we know that. That's the stuff you're supposed to do. But there's an art to what we do. Has anyone ever thought of themselves as an artist? I'm curious. At least I only saw one hand. Two. I mean, guys, you are an artist. And even if you didn't go to school for business or for sales or something like that, if you've spent a career, you cannot underrate your expertise to connect with other human beings. We take this for granted, but have you ever met someone that's like, I freeze in front of people, or I'm horrible in these scenarios? And we're like, really? Right? Those are real emotions. That's because we're artists. That's cool, isn't it? We get to be artists every single day. And it's up to us to paint beautiful pictures for people. That, to me, is where I like to spend my time. Once we spend time there, then we can talk about things like business plans and all the money you're going to make and blah, blah, blah. Now, listen, I do know this. There are some business plans that if you just make the calls and you make the thing, like in my pharmaceutical days, even the last person in the nation who was about to get fired and put on a performance improvement plan, they were still making the calls and they were still doing the thing. They were getting scripts written. Like, so business happened. Just like you might put an advertisement in a book or something like, or on a billboard, or you might do a drip campaign in your CRM, and business might happen a little bit. But there's a difference between some businesses coming and explosion. There's a difference. I love to spend my time pouring gasoline all over that fire. I love it. And exploding my business. Okay? If you want normal, regular results, put the stupid business plan in place, put it on your CRM, on auto dial, and make it happen. And you will get something. But you dive into this thing, and it's amazing. Now, there's a whole science to it. We call this the fundamentals of influence. I worked on this. So what I always knew back when I was a teacher and in the bar business, like what I always felt I never could verbalize until I met a Navy SEAL by the name of Eric Davis. And I worked very closely with and I mentioned his name on purpose. We've actually lost contact, but should he see this Facebook Live video, I think it's important that Eric gets a lot of credit for what I call now the fundamentals of influence. He was a Navy SEAL. And so here he meets the sales guy. He is not a sales guy, I can tell you that much. But he's like, Stu, are you kidding me? We live the same lives. You're in sales, you influence people. You connect with people so that you grab their time and attention. As a Navy SEAL, what the heck do you think I did? I would have to go to foreign countries not knowing a word of whatever language I was in, and I had to influence people to do things I needed them to do. It's sales. And together, what we did, he was part of that initiative where we took that call center and took them from 40 to 80%, that whole thing. That was my time spent with Eric and the fundamentals of influence. We drop language all the time that I want to share with you today. And today, you will not get it all, I promise you. So if there's more opportunities to come back, we can do deep dives. But what I want for you to be open to today during our time together, and how much, okay, I've already been talking a bunch. During our time together is you have complete control of the narrative that your people, your sphere says about you. You have control of that. And it's up to you to tap into that if that excites you. Okay, I've just dropped a ton of stories. Is there any reaction, questions before I just keep going? But I can do that too. Questions, concerns, topics? We're all engaged, man. Okay. So, first of all, one of the things that I found, I think it's really important. Write this down. There is a sales equation. Remember, I'm a teacher, so I think math. And here's what I learned one time. T times V equals A. Do you remember we talked about T times V equals A? T times V. So if you know the answer to this, Jessica, you might remember this one too, so don't give away the answers. T times V equals A. In sales, because we're all artists in here, what is T? Time. See, I'm asking you to read my brain. That's not fair. Equals A. Someone's going to grant you access or authority, A, access or authority into their life. In order for A to happen, T times V. So is T time or is it something else? Two variables that are super important. Trust. I must deliver trust. We're going to talk about trust in a second. We glance over trust. When I hear people talk about trust, I get squirmy because I'm like, that's a whole hour topic, okay? Trust times V. What's V? Value. Why is it not a plus sign? Back to my teaching. Sorry? It has to multiply. Here's why. Anything, back to elementary school. Teacher, anything times 0 equals 0. I do not get access into your world if either of those variables are 0. Trust times value equals access, or grant me authority into your world. We are not selling commodities. I'm not selling rice or coffee. In this case, we're selling real estate. Someone's biggest asset. Think about that for a second. And we waltz in here. There are people, I shouldn't say we, because we're different. There are people that walk into a room and thinking, they like me. They'll just use me. I'll hand out my business card to everybody. Like a deck of cards. Oh, here's my card, here's my card, here's my card. You use me. Great. And we think like, oh, they trust me. There's a lot of people that I like, that I would have a beer with, that I would go for a bike ride with. I don't trust them more than I can throw them. No chance in hell. Right? Imagine this. Let's just talk about trust for a second. Did you know you can measure trust? Subconsciously, we as human beings measure trust. You might not actually do it, like on a piece of scrap paper, but think about, when has someone eroded your trust? I'll see you at 5 o'clock today. 5:15. Are they there yet? They're late. Boom. You've eroded trust. You've now withdrawn from your bank account. Think about someone that has a doctor that has horrible bedside manner. Even though they are the best doctor at whatever thing they do, maybe they're a heart surgeon, but they're a jerk. Or they're a half hour late to the appointment after you've taken off an hour from work. You dedicated your time, but they weren't equally as courteous to your time. boom, you've eroded trust. We can actually measure trust. Sometimes I have to remind myself. But we can measure it in sincerity. We can measure it in reliability and in competency. Not incompetency, in competency. Are you competent at what you do? Are you sincere when you interact with me? Are you reliable? Do you actually do what you say you're going to do? How many people say, oh yeah, we'll have to meet up next weekend to go for that bike ride or something. And next weekend comes and they don't reach out. Boom, you've eroded trust. I don't think about it, but my subconscious remembers that. Don't you ever have those feelings where sometimes you're like, oh, I'm not surprised because they never follow up. Ha, ha, ha. These things are like volume 10 on my, I can't turn this off, guys. It's like volume number 10 on the radio dial. So trust, sincerity, reliability. What's the other one? Competency. Thank you very much. We have to deliver trust, not to be confused with likability. A lot of people I like, and I'm never doing business with them. You have to earn my trust, and we have to earn our people's trust. When you wonder why didn't they use me as their real estate agent? Look at yourself in the mirror. Have you ever been late? Have you ever not done something you said you were going to do? Have you ever said, wow, I really messed up that deal big time? Ha ha. Trust. Times value. Are you able to deliver value? Can you actually turn to your neighbor and say, I, as a real estate, am good at delivering value. Value can be measured as well. Importance, utility, worth. All of those things are definitions of value. Anyone can buy or sell a property for me. Many of you in here are licensed, I would say the majority of you in here are licensed real estate agents. I got to pick one of you. I've met in 8 short months living in Tucson, I've met tons of real estate agents. And I am an investor, and I'm like, well, who do I choose? I don't even know. Who do I trust? And who do I value? Who do I know? I once worked with this guy who, in Minnesota, so no one here, he was just a jerk. He just was. And I trusted him because he was also a coach of mine in my Ironman world. But he was kind of mean. I said to him, hey, I'm looking for this investment property. What do you think I could get for rent if we actually buy this house? Like, can you help me with that? And he's like, dude, go look online. What do you want me to do? This is someone I trusted. I'm like, wow, zero value. You're going to make me do all the work, and I might not do it right. I'm looking at you as my uncommon professional. We're going to come down to uncommon professional in a second. But anyone, common professional, anyone can buy or sell a property for me. Are you able to deliver value for me, and do I trust you? If either one of them is zero, I do not grant you access. We are not buying rice and coffee. We're not buying commodities. I'm about to put all of my trust. I have tens of thousands of dollars I'm about to put in this deal in your hands. And I got to trust and value that you're able to do that. If we don't spend time thinking about that, that's a problem. Why? Here's an experience. I think we've all done it. Who here has a birthday? All right, good. We all have a birthday. How many of you people get those, I'm already going to tell you the way I feel about them, those stupid emails from companies, happy birthday, Stu. Like, do you really think, all right, now how many people have you got those emails from someone's CRM? There's no personal note. There's no like, hey, Stu, fun riding bikes with you last week, happy birthday. There's none of that stuff. It's happy birthday from your friends at company. I don't know. For me, my volume is turned way up. Does anyone in this here go, spouse, friend, come, look at this amazing email. They thought of me. I feel so special today. Has anyone ever felt that? Getting one of those emails? I don't feel that way. In fact, what you've done is you've eroded trust. Interesting. You've eroded trust for someone like Stu, whose volume is way turned up. Because what does that tell me? It tells me you did not take the time to reach out to me one-on-one, to double down on our relationship. It feels insincere. You just want my business. Yuck. That's the way I feel. And if you don't feel that way, your subconscious does. Because that's how we're wired. We are pack animals. We need community. So even if you don't think it, your subconscious thinks it. Yet what do we do as salespeople? Put the business plan in place and work the business plan. So how many people go to their CRM, click these 1,000 people, hook them up to their birthdays, and now they get a birthday wish every single time. Happy New Year from Stu at Springer Realty Group. Thanks. I would argue you actually do yourself a disservice. Okay? So trust times value. If either one of those are 0, you do not get access or no one grants you authority into their world. Let me just stop there for a second. Give me some comments, questions, feedback on that. It's an important topic. Does that make sense? Yeah.
So, we've heard the saying of always being top of mind. So, you make the comment about the birthday emails. I'm guilty of it because I'm a mortgage guy, but automatically for us, like clockwork, right? No work. But I've got some clients that say, oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So it's far in between, but you're saying it's a disservice. Isn't it still top of mind because I sense something, even though it's automated?
So here's the thing. It's a great question. In a marketing world, and I also come from big business marketing departments, so I'm going to go big business with you for a second. There's something called an awareness campaign. In marketing, you tend to fall into 2 categories. There's an awareness campaign, and then there's an engagement campaign. And I think what you're speaking to is really an awareness campaign. I want to make sure I'm just front of mind. But there's ways to do that without eroding trust or sincerity. I'm just playing devil's advocate with you, right? It's not to say it hasn't led to staying in front of your people. There is value to you in doing that. But just think big picture here. Is there a way that you can build awareness and not risk eroding trust? That's I guess my response back, question back.
So follow, as a supreme connector that you are,
Yeah.
do you feel the same way when someone just says, happy birthday on Facebook?
100%. So here's what I do. Because I do feel that, right? My volume is turned way up. Can't help it. It's how I'm born. You can thank Marsha Schulman for that one. It's like nails on a chalkboard for me. So what do I do? What do I have agents do? You ever go to Facebook Messenger? Facebook Messenger has a great little solution on there. You hit the little video button or whatever, and you hold it down, you get 20 seconds. So you better make it quick. Hey, Gabe, Stu, it's been forever since we connected. Just want to wish you a happy birthday. I didn't want to let the day go, by without that. Have an amazing day, buddy. And I will do that every single day. If there's 5 birthdays on my Facebook or 10, guess what I'm doing? I got 5 and 10 birthday wishes I'm doing. And the response you get from people are things like, no one has ever done that for me before. Oh my God, what a sweet message. Thank you for the personalized note.
I want to know what system you use after you have so many clients to just keep up with the birthdays, right? That's been a huge issue.
Yeah.
Because I'm not used to doing I grew up Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
And so that was never on my radar, and now it's like, oh my God, it's so important.
Yeah.
But what system do you use to keep up with so many different birthdays?
So that's where you do use your CRM. I don't care if it's an Excel spreadsheet. What do they say? The best CRM is the one you use. So use one. I don't care if it's CRM or a spreadsheet or a piece of paper and pen. But every single day, look at it. If you're not a Facebook person, that's fine. But figure out a way. I do text messages all the time with friends, and I will send them a video. Happy birthday, buddy. Miss you. And I just text them. I don't use any special software. I'm sure there's tons of great software. I'm one of those people, I can't manage all the different systems. I'm not an operational thinker that way. I'm more of an artist. So I get bogged down with too many, I use this system for this thing and this system for this thing. I want to connect with people. And I will always make sure you feel my authentic self. you will hear your name come out of my mouth, and it will be a sincere gesture.
So videos that
Yeah.
creates that trust or value.
It's trust, right? It's relationship. It's sincerity, because that's sincerity, right? Go ahead, continue.
You know, I was just thinking, so just the added touch is the videos. That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Than just sending around
Yeah.
email follow-up
Yeah.
video.
Or sometimes I'm guilty of it. Sometimes I just send a text message, but I won't do it on Facebook. Facebook is easy. Facebook auto-populates it. HBD, part of your, a little symbol or whatever. I'm like, I know exactly what you just did. You went on the easy button. Thanks. But when I actually get the text message, right? I mean, like, I don't know. I feel that stuff. And I would argue why my volume is turned way up high. I believe in my heart that people subconsciously take note of this stuff. Because I believe in the triangle of the pyramid triangle in sales, which is your experiences on the bottom, fuel your beliefs. The only reason we believe something is we've experienced something different. So we have experiences down here. Then we believe it. That belief helps me take action or non-action. And then at the top is results. Those are your 4 steps to that pyramid. It is my responsibility as a salesperson, as a connector, as an interaction, as a human being on this earth, to make sure that every experience I have with another human being, that's up to me. I get to dictate what that looks like. Not to say that every experience is amazing. I've met a lot of jerks and people I don't vibe with. But it's up to me to try to create the narrative. What is that experience going to be? And if today is your birthday or your anniversary of that time you sold your house 7 years ago, you will have the experience of Stu took the time and cares. That's my art.
Would you say then that the best thing if you are leveraging technology in regards to CRM is for it to then produce an opportunity for human connection?
Yes.
So if you do have a CRM, which we have, then we see our list on a monthly basis, and instead of just knowing that they're going to auto-populate, maybe make it a funny, like, hey, I'm going to get my robot saying happy birthday, but this is me wishing you a happy birthday.
Be a human being. Everyone, we live in such a, I mean, look, this is like a whole other topic, right? We live in such a technology-driven world where we are losing connection. That's not my idea. It's like everywhere, right? You hear it all the time. People are depressed. They're not feeling connected. Well, flip the script. Stand out. Now we get into uncommon and common. Everyone uses technology. Everyone is doing this and this and this. That's common. I like to live in the world of uncommon. Anyone can buy or sell a property for me. Anyone can do that. As long as you have a license, you could do it. I'm looking for an uncommon leader. I need someone who's going to do something, who's going to listen to me, who's going to appreciate me, who's going to deliver trust, deliver value. And that's different. That's uncommon leadership. Here's a great example. I have 2 girls. One's graduated college, one's in college right now. But when they were little girls, and we taught them that if you're ever in trouble, you look for people in blue uniforms and they're going to save you from anyone that could be hurting you, right? Police officers. And you teach them that thing. That's what any police officer can do. And then we met Officer Joe in Phoenix, Arizona. Officer Joe worked at the elementary school that my kids were going to. And here's what Officer Joe did. Joe has the same gun, the same, like all, what do they call them, flapjacks, like all those things that police officers can do. He's got the handcuffs. He's got all the stuff. He could have just stopped there and said, "Hi, girls. Yes, I'm Officer Joe." What Officer Joe did is separated himself from everyone else we would ever meet. He took the time to know my kids' names. He gave them hugs. He made them feel welcome. He asked them how they're doing. When he saw their shoulders, slouched down, he asked them why. He showed care. Officer Joe was no longer just a police officer. Anyone can be a police officer. He was Officer Joe. It's different. Uncommon leadership. Anyone can do that. Have you guys ever felt that, by the way, before? Like someone that's just, pick a different career. I don't know. Maybe it's a teacher, right? Teacher that just gave you the lesson plan, and here's how we're going to work. Here's why we're going to carry the one. If you're old enough like me and you carry the one, in math, in addition, because I know that's like not a thing anymore, I don't think. But like, yeah, here's how you carry the one, and here's why you borrow from the next round. And we always learned that's just what you do. But then there were teachers that actually taught me why. They separate themselves. Don't just do it because I told you here's why we're going to do it. Do you understand why it works this way? That teacher became uncommon. Do any of you have an uncommon teacher that you ever bumped into in your life? One. You have one teacher that stands out from the rest. They're all teachers. One stood out. Maybe two, right? Uncommon leadership. We owe it to ourselves and to our people that trust us to show up as uncommon every single day. Don't be like everybody else. I believe that to my core. And that's the art. How do I do that? I don't know. I'm intimidated. I don't know as much as this person. That's okay. Be you. Say, I don't know, but I'm going to get you the answer. Ask them. Actually, am I just like going all over the place right now? Squirrel moment, because I am a sales guy. Squirrel moment. The idea here that, now I'm totally losing my train of thought. I just had a squirrel moment and I forgot. But I'm going to get back there here the question is, how are you? If you ever want to upset me or mess with me, you now have permission to mess with me because I'm an East Coaster and I love to be messed with. Ask me, how am I? I hate that question. Why? Why do I hate that question? Read the room. It's generic. It's common. Thank you. She just said it. Sorry, what's your first name? Amber? Amber just said it. Do you really care? Because here's the deal. Do you ever walk up to someone, how are you, Amber? I'm fine, how are you? It's like, how awful is that whole exchange? You know? But, so set yourself apart. I don't say, how are you? I don't do it. Because if I ask you how you are, I better buckle in and be ready for a half-hour conversation. Like, I truly better be ready for that. It might not be that, but if I just asked you how you are on a day that you lost a pet, or you had an argument with your spouse, or something really, maybe you went broke last night. I don't know what happened to you. And if I really open up the conversation for that, I better be ready to go off of my agenda and meet you where you are. So when I ask people, how are you? It is a sincere gesture. And I am ready to take that time. If I don't have that time, I might say, hi, Amber. Give me the highlight of your day so far. Well, the highlight of my day is I had great breakfast with my kids. Awesome. Tell me more. Now that's a whole sales thing. Tell me more about that. Now I have a conversation starter. But what I'm not doing is saying, how are you? Hoping that you don't actually answer the question so I can go on my agenda so I can sell you a house. Like, how creepy is that? How are you? If I write an email to someone, I never say, hey, Gabe, how are you? Like, what? I can't even answer it. You wrote me an email. I actually have people that say that in an email. How are you? I don't know. Do you really want to know? Or is that just your way of entering in? The words that we say, we get to be artists. Don't be like everybody else. Connect with people. And there's ways to do that. Everyone asks. My daughter says it all the time. Oh my gosh. Julia, if you're watching, it pisses me off and you know it. She does it. Every single time she calls me, hi, Dad, how are you? I'm like, really, Jewel? Is this how we're starting off this conversation today?
I think that phone does it for you now.
Oh my God. So, but here's the thing. It works because it's how we connect with other human beings. Sometimes I have an agenda, and we as salespeople, we have an agenda. We got to get right into it. So it sounds more like, Gabe, buddy, I imagine you're busy. I need 5 minutes. Do I have your permission to proceed? I don't ask him how he is. I don't have the 10 minutes. So let me just be honest with the guy. I need 5 minutes. You got it or no? I got it, but you got to be quick. Cool. Here's why I'm calling. Boom. I'm in. And I move on with my business. But you set very clear expectations. There's a whole architecture to this in the fundamentals of influence. The way we greet people has to be uncommon. We have to greet people in an uncommon way. Not to be confused with, hey everybody, I'm Stu Schulman. Like, no, that's stupid. That's not sincere. That's like me fitting into the sales, like, that's what they taught you, like, in your first day of sales or something? Be cheery or something? No. Greet people uncommonly. Every single person that cold calls people, hey! No! Click. But imagine greeting someone in an uncommon way. Gabe, Stu Schulman. And then we go into it. And I don't actually have very, very cheery voice. I have an agenda. I'm a business person. So are you. I'm not here to sell you. I'm not after you. I'm here to deliver something today. And that's probably value to you. And so we're going to have a quick conversation if you have the time. If you don't, that's okay. I'm going to greet you in an uncommon way. After I greet you, I'm going to grab your attention. We call that the little attention getter. I'm not going full bore as like, this is the reason. But hi, I'm Stu Schulman. We were actually connected through Gabe. Gabe gave me your phone number and asked that I reach out to you. Little attention getter. Gabe. Do you have 5 minutes to connect? Okay. So now I'm cold calling someone that maybe Gabe gave me someone's phone number. Or, hey, I met you at that leverage event that Gabe put on. We exchanged business cards, and it's important that we connected today. Do I have 5 minutes of your time so I can ask you a few questions, or would you like to schedule time? Little attention getter, just enough to be like, oh yeah, I know why this person is showing up in my world today. So we greet them uncommonly. We grab their attention just a little bit, And then we acknowledge and counter. This is when we actually say, do I have that time? Where are you in your space today? Acknowledge and counter. I hear you. It's crazy out there. It's hot. Business sucks. Business is great. Like, let me just where are we here? We're about to dance. I don't go right into my agenda. I acknowledge. I acknowledge where you are and I counter. And at some point, I might say, hey, the reason why I reached out to you, and I'm going to have some questions. Question and qualify. Now I'll ask you some questions. But I'm not going to just bombard you with questions like, hey, tell me, when was the last time you bought and sold real estate? No. I'm going to ask you questions. So the reason Gabe connected us was because I heard that you might be an investor or you have an expertise in this kind of real estate. And if it's okay, I would actually love to learn a little bit what's on your brain. Do you have a few minutes? Because I have some questions. And I ask you a whole bunch of questions if you grant me that permission. But you have to grant me that permission. I don't get to just launch into my agenda. I question and qualify. At some place, there's a point where it's like, I know exactly why we're here today. Big attention getter. Now it makes sense why Gabe connected me to you and gave me your phone number. Now it makes sense 2 months ago when I got your card and I never actually followed up, but I made a note to call you. Now it makes sense. Big attention getter. Here's why. You invest in real estate. That is my expertise. I forgot about that connection. I wrote on your business card, Gabe was the connector. Big attention getter. This is why I actually wanted to speak with you. Thank you. Then and only then do I present and demonstrate who I am and what I do. But I've just gone through all these different steps. I've greeted you. I've grabbed your attention just a little bit. I've acknowledged. I counter. I ask questions. I get a big attention getter. I make sense of it all. Then I present and demonstrate. Here's what, okay, I just moved to Tucson. Here's what I do. Blah, 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 blah. Now we're going to connect with you. Now you're going to understand some of the value I bring. And I wanted to see if it makes sense to continue a dialogue over lunch or connect at another time. Last part is best next steps. So what would you suggest? Is it worth having coffee after today? Can we do something else next time? Or what's the next thing? It's called best next steps. What is the best next step from here? How we interact with people. Same thing played out in the doctor's office, right? Dr. Jones. It wasn't like, remember, I was competing against models that were walking in. The doctors would be like, oh my God, models everywhere I look. And it's a very superficial lifestyle. And then big oafy Stu, 280 pounds, is walking in, sweaty and the whole thing. And it was up to me to greet them in an uncommon way and make sure that they felt like they were in good hands. And I didn't just come in and be like, here's why I'm amazing. And here's why all my products are going to just be amazing and save the world. It was my job to greet you in an uncommon way and learn and find opportunity before I told you everything about me and connect. And that's what you all get to do every single day. To me, that's the magic. All right, I just dropped a whole bunch of other stuff. Questions, comments? How are we doing on time? Yeah.
We had this conversation at lunch, and one really cool thing we talked about was how do you connect with somebody you haven't connected with in a long time?
Yeah.
You've been a bad agent or bad whatever.
Yeah.
And it's been months, maybe a year.
Yeah.
Past client. How do you reconnect with them?
Yeah. Well, the easy answer for me is just, it is what it is. Call it out. Apologize. Jessica, I totally dropped the ball. Totally dropped the ball. I lost touch with you and I apologize for that. You're actually way more important than that one deal. And since that deal happened, we haven't connected. I apologize for that. But it is important that we maintain our friendship. And I mean this, how the heck are you? I actually mean it. I'm not calling for her business right now. How the heck are you? Oh my God, Stu, I'm so busy right now. I don't have time. That's okay. Like I said, it's important that we connect, and I dropped the ball on not staying connected with you. Do you have time in the next month for coffee? I mean, shoot, it's been a year. We can wait another few weeks. When can we just reconnect? Loved working with you. Loved your energy. I want to see how you are. That's what I would do. Actually, use it to your advantage, right? But if you just sweep it under the rug or whatever, like, that's all you're doing. And people notice that. Like, oh, they're just after my business. They just want something from me. Be sincere. Other questions? Yeah.
I learned in another talk once that if you're going to have a difficult conversation, that should be said up front too.
Yeah.
Like, even with your spouse or your kids or,
Yeah.
Not just, hey, we're going to have a, but hi, how are you, whatever, and then you have to have it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You didn't get the loan, they didn't go through. So
Yeah.
that way their focus is a little
Yeah.
different.
I'm not a big fan of, by the way, you said, how are you in there? And I would disagree with that. I'm not a big fan of the compliment sandwich. You ever hear of the compliment sandwich? Give them a compliment, then hit them with the hard stuff, and then finish with, I don't like that stuff. But because I agree with you. Be transparent. Be uncommon. Everyone else is being all cheery, trying to give you, we're on Facebook, the crap sandwich, right? Don't be that person. Be honest. I have some really difficult news today, so it's, or whatever. Hey, we're going through some stuff here on this deal, so it's really important that we connect today for 5 minutes. In fact, I'm not even going to ask how you are. Like, we need to dive into this today. So, when do you have 5 or 10 minutes? I can deliver the news, and we could talk solutions right now. Now you know exactly what I'm going to try to accomplish. Expectations are set, and we're going to move forward. And I'm helping you in the process. I'm delivering you value. Did I answer your question? Yeah.
So question in regards to how sometimes you get excitable or sometimes we're even nervous when we're doing things.
Yeah.
How do you relay that? Because I know sometimes you have to talk to a client and whatnot, and you're nervous.
Yeah.
Freaking out. So how do you address that? You say, because I know that I've used I'm having a little off day.
Yeah.
Let's talk tomorrow. I'll call you later, or then I compose myself and then call back. Does that hurt me? Or
No.
Okay.
Might it even be endearing?
Okay.
My very first call as a pharmaceutical sales rep, her first name was Abby. She was a physician's assistant in a dermatology office. Why do I remember this? It was my first day in pharmaceutical sales, and I went after my number one potential writer for my new product that I was launching. I'm like, I'm going big. I'm going in. And I meet the writer in that office. The PA is actually doing the writing, not the doctor. Long story. Anyway, I'm in front of Abby. She is the holy grail to my business. I get dry mouth. The sweat starts. I'm a deer in headlights. And what did I say? Abby, I need a sip of water because I'm really nervous right now. I'm about to lose my you-know-what. So, can you grant me that space to be really nervous for a second? I promise you I have information for you, but I'm really nervous. It's my first call ever. And she goes, Stu, thank you for being honest with me. Absolutely. Be comfortable. We became friends. She became not only my number one writer, but I was immediately delivering her trust. Not that she had to trust me, but I was being sincere. I was showing my competence. Like, I have all the stuff. Just bear with me. I didn't know it at the time, but what I was doing was delivering the trust.
I feel like when you're showing a little like vulnerability.
Totally. Yeah. Be honest. Yeah. When you need a sip of water in a big boardroom presentation, take the darn sip of water. You know? Call it out. I'm one of those people. Maybe it's just being an East Coaster or whatever, or blunt or whatever the thing is. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting dry mouth. I'll call it out. I got dry mouth. Take a sip of water. And it is what it is. We're all human beings. You've never had dry mouth before? It sucks. I'm going to take some water now. So collect your thoughts and, do whatever.
And the phone is very intimidating.
Yeah.
Phone calls, even, I have another office that I work at, but I had to remind myself that other person is human. It's just a person.
They're just human beings.
Right. Then you start chatting and then you get comfortable and then, okay, now we can talk about it.
Imagine if you're making a phone call to someone, you're cold calling them or whatever, and you actually say, oh my God, I am really nervous right now. I know I'm disturbing you in the middle of your day, but I'm really nervous. So let me just start over. Can I just collect myself? My name is Stu Schulman. I'm actually calling because of this reason, and I'm super nervous. Do I have like 30 seconds to collect myself with you? And can I ask you how you are? But all of a sudden, what human actually doesn't say, oh my gosh, wow, thank you for being vulnerable with me. And now all of a sudden I have a conversation starter. It actually turns out it gets the other person talking because they feel an obligation to meet you halfway. When you connect with people, guys, influence happens. All of a sudden people like you. They have these feelings of, wow, this is not just an average person calling me or meeting me at whatever, cocktail party or whatever the thing is. You really can make people feel special. That is our art. It's amazing.
Stu,
Yeah.
I cannot stop thinking about it because I'm like, okay, the first time we met, I postponed our lunch. I'm pretty sure when you walked in, I said, how are you? And then we had a face.
Yeah. No. But can I share? Here's what's amazing about Jessica. So even if you do that, first of all, I'm just weird like that. That's just my thing. And I will give everyone a break because the how are you question is, that's just my thing. I know it. And I used to argue with that Navy SEAL guy. He'd be like, dude, how do you not ask someone how they are? I'm like, dude, you're a Navy SEAL and you don't get what I'm trying to tell you right now. That's a problem. And we used to just banter back and forth. Here's what I will tell you about Jessica. Even if you did do those things, there's a sincerity that I felt right away from Jessica. The moment she offered something, I didn't have to ask again. She followed up. She made introductions. She's just there's nothing in it for her. I don't have a loan for her. You just did it. I felt your sincerity.
Okay, so sincerity can supersede.
Yeah. Yes. Well, remember, that's an element of trust. I measure that subconsciously. I leave that thinking, gosh, she actually said what she said she would. She did what she said she was going to do. How cool is that? That's an uncommon professional right there. There's nothing in it for her. Interesting. She doesn't know not to ask me, how are you?
I do now.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, you can, but buckle up. It might be a half hour because I will actually tell you how I am.
So we have to untrain ourselves.
If you like my vibe on that, then yes, you would have to do that. You might say, Stu, please, move on. But it's a thing for me.
I met a lady I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And then she made me think, and then I really did have to stop saying it.
If you ever want to separate yourself, do you ever have someone that says, you say fine, you do the question, how are you? And they go, oh, living another day. Oh, I woke up today, right? I'm still on top of the grass, or whatever the stupid, right? Be uncommon. What do you say then? Be uncommon for a second. Say more about that. What do you mean you're just okay and you're on the right side of the grass? That sounds like a horrible day. Tell me more about that. Are you okay? I actually mean that, because I called for different reasons. But if your answer was, you're barely alive or whatever, but what a great conversation starter it turns out to be. So if you're going to do it, if you're going to say, how are you? And they go, okay, how are you? I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Before I answer that question, you just said, okay. Okay sounds yucky to me. I woke up with a fever today. I'm okay. So all of a sudden, I got a conversation starter just by saying, how are you? Now, to answer your question, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was supposed to be here. I had a commitment. My first real commitment of speaking in my new city. And I get diagnosed with pneumonia. Doctor tells me I'm contagious, and I could barely lift my head off the pillow. I was 104. And I thought about my buddy Edmund, who I'm like, Edmund probably wouldn't miss this. But I literally cannot lift my head off the pillow. And I want to be fully present for Gabe. So I have to have the tough conversation. Today is just it's not going to happen, man. I felt horrible. The guy just trusted me with his people. People, for all I know, you're already planning on coming in here or whatever. And the new guy says, sorry, can't make it. I lost sleep over it. I did. I truly lost sleep over it. And now it's up to me to deposit and deposit and deposit. And by the way, I truly do apologize for not being here that day. If you were planning on being here, I truly do apologize. I did have pneumonia. I still have it. I'm not contagious. But it's like it destroyed me emotionally, because I'm like, this is exactly how you erode trust. And for me, it's like a dial on a radio.
For all fairness, Stu literally said, hey man, I got pneumonia, I'm 104 degrees, but I can still make it if you want me to.
Yeah.
I'll be present.
Yeah, that's called Jewish guilt. I'm Jewish. That's just guilt. I'll suffer for you. I'll come in. Yeah. That's Jewish guilt. It worked. But anyway, we all have these moments. The idea is that you're not perfect. I couldn't be perfect for Gabe that day. I'm telling you, I was not in good shape. Because I'm human. And sometimes you just got to be human and be honest with people. My hope is that Gabe or you feel my sincerity when I say that. I don't not talk about it. In fact, I'll talk about it in front of you. It's okay. I'm not embarrassed about it. I couldn't do it. But here I am. And I meant it. So what I do, as soon as I could talk and we're texting and I say, it's really important to me that we do this before I leave for a few weeks in the summer. Can we get another date on the books? It's important to me. And it is important to me. Okay, other questions? Go ahead. Oh. Yeah.
I would just like to say I appreciate what you're saying, because I've always had a very hard time with the whole sandwiching and being authentic. It's always, they've always said, be a little bit more pleasant and cheery, and I'm like, I'm honest, I want to be honest, I want to convey that to people, and so I appreciate what you're saying, because that goes a little bit more with who I am.
Yeah. Call it out. I'm just a fan of that. Just say what it's going to be. Today I'm going to feel very agenda-based. I'm going to feel a little bit more boom, boom, boom. But that's because I only have 10 minutes, and that's because we have some very important things to discuss, whether it's bad news, good news, great news, not so good news. We got stuff to work on. And so today you're going to feel a little bit less personality out of me. Is that okay? And if not, I need to know when we can dedicate that time. To be honest with people. You get to control the narrative, right, and the structure that's going to happen. So thank you.
Love your language. There's so many takeaways of just how you say things. I want to talk like you.
Well, that's sweet of you. That's part of what I love to nerd out on. First of all, we can connect offline, and I mean that sincerely. I'll connect with anyone offline, and we should just talk. Some of that is you can friend me on Facebook, and I post some of the stuff for my agents so that they can see just some of the thoughts I have or whatever. Some of it, guys, is you have to just, I have some notes here just to make sure I didn't forget something. I'm a big fan of this. I heard a speaker say this once, and he said, I know my story. I don't need a PowerPoint. I don't need the whole thing. No one knows my story better than me. And I thought, how powerful is that? Right? So if you're one of those people that says, well, how do they say it that way? Part of how you do that is to take your time, create space in your words, and tell your story. Your words will come out of you. Your authentic self will come out. Has anyone ever done Toastmasters? Yeah? I love Toastmasters. There's people in the room that count ums. They're called counters. It's horrible. How many times have I said Have you been counting?
No.
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 I didn't do that on
There's
purpose.
one.
That was totally messed up. Tends to be something that we're looking for space. So they're just space takers. Sometimes it's not the word it's like, it's, do you ever hear people use sort of or kind of? I'm sort of thinking they're filler spaces. And what you learn in things like Toastmasters or whatever is take your time and be you. And out of that will flow your conversation and your voice. So we can role play that stuff, and I love to do that because that's just fun for me. But just know, have the confidence you can work on that, and it will come to you. All right, buddy.
Oh, take a seat. Take a seat. So really great conversation. I mean, did this kind of bring up a different thought in the way you do business? I mean, did you guys find value in this? Is there things that you thought about, even like the people that you thought about, like you mentioned teachers that you remember, people that influenced you, people that you trust. Did those people come to mind when he was talking about that? And then you're trying to then figure out, like, I wonder why they were why I was so drawn to those people, but it makes you think of all of these things in different perspective, which is unbelievable. I will say this, when I was talking to Stu when we first met, or we were at Union having lunch, somebody literally, we're having a good conversation, we're like this, I'm listening to him really, really, really in tuned. And then somebody stopped, remember, the couple came in and just like stopped us. And she's like, she got right in the middle of our conversation, she's like, you are so magnetic. I was sitting over there, and it's an older couple. It's an older couple. Because me and my husband were sitting on the corner, and we were watching you speak with your hands, and you were just so charismatic. And Stu does have that. It's a gift. See, now I'm paying attention to my ums. But I love that you brought it up about speaking and kind of slowing down, because many times I'm trying to speak quickly, right? And I'm paying attention to how you speak, because I agree with you. You know, the way you speak is very powerful. So I'm trying to slow it down. And I will say this. I love the Toastmaster thing. That thing's legit. I was invited. If you guys, and if Kay's listening, but did anybody listen to Kay speak? Right? Have you heard Kay speak years before that? There's a difference, right? And Kay does Toastmasters every week, and he leads it, and he kills it. And there's a big difference because he practices his language. But anyways, I appreciate you. I hope that one day you can teach us how to do an Ironman.
You got it. There's an art to that.
There is an art, and I think that's a class within itself. Yeah. So thank you. Let's give it up for Stu.